There we go. All right. So let's go ahead and start that over because apparently I don't know how to use my own microphone. Hey, everybody. Welcome. It is the Yard Sign. Better late than never. Thank you so much for watching. We are having a little bit of a bumpy start here to what I want to call our election super show. Are you guys hearing me now? I know we got Hector, Eduardo in the chat room there. And then again, so today's topics, GDP numbers, big news, good news there. European shutdown, really bad news there. Election polls, we'll see who might have a feel of what's going on in tomorrow's big day, and then we'll give our own election predictions as far as what's going to happen here locally in the Tampa Bay area and what's going to happen across the country. So that leads me to today's panel, which I'm very excited about because we've got the usual faces and some new faces and faces that we just haven't seen in a while. So let's go ahead to the center camera and take them off mute here. That's it. And of course, I've always got the thing on Anibal's face.
In the first place, I think we're responsible enough as guests of your program to not be muted, Jonny.
We can't.
I don't think that's a thing.
We can't even put our phones on mute.
Yeah, exactly. I can't trust you guys.
Speak for yourself.
All right.
Speak for yourself.
From left to right, let's go ahead. That is Chris of VerKuilen now on social media. He's joined the 21st century. He's on Twitter at Chris VerKuilen, on Instagram c.verkuilen.
At me, bro.
Yeah, isn't it a little creepy that I know that right off the top of my head? Nothing to be scared about.
Tell me.
Right next to Mr. VerKuilen, that is Joe Wicker. Both of you guys looking really sharp tonight, man. I mean, I need to step it up. And that lovely lady right there, who we haven't seen in a while, but we're very excited to have her back. That is Jodie Lopes.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Super excited to be back on the show.
I know, it's been too long. Been too long. And that gentleman there, that's a familiar face that we can't seem to get rid of. That's Anibal Cabrera.
Hey, guys.
So we have a lot of great topics to talk about. And, of course, we're going to be rushing to get to the final topic, which is the election predictions. But let's go ahead and start off with the first topic, which is GDP numbers, something I know Anibal loves to talk about. And this is going to be a very Anibal-heavy show at the beginning because we're not only talking financial stuff, but we're also talking foreign policy. So, Anibal, let's start to break down the GDP numbers. 33%, I believe.
33.1% actually.
Oh, excuse me.
Growth at a record 33.1% annual rate as the economy bounces back from its pandemic-driven shutdown of the second quarter. However, even with the record growth, the economy was still 3.5% below its pre-pandemic levels. So we are assuming that with a decent third quarter and hopefully robust fourth quarter, we will have at least be able to squeak out a 2 to 3% GDP growth for this year of 2020. So Right now, that's what we're seeing. And then the shape of the growth is kind of mixed with new home build-outs showing a great increase of what the third and fourth quarter is looking like. Some of the bad predictions so far is the spending in recreation services are down 32%. Restaurants are down 20%. Healthcare spending is down 7%, and transportation is down 23.3%. All the gains were in durable goods and orders of, I would say, I know the internal deficit is pretty low right now, but we're seeing increases in durable goods, home goods, vehicles. Home Depot is doing great. So we're seeing
people are buying cars right now?
Yeah, people are actually buying cars at the moment. So we're seeing
because you're not using the mileage. Actually, it makes sense to get a car right now if you think about it.
Well, this is going to be also one of those moments where people are going to be buying cars also that, they're not going to be worrying so much about the gas mileage because they've been home for so long and they figure, I'm probably not going to be driving a whole lot. And so they're going to go for that next thing, right? They're going to go for the bigger SUV, the higher mileage engine. They're not going to be as worried about their gas consumption. Also because gas prices have been so low for so long.
Yeah.
Well, I know Home Depot and Lowe's has been packed. I mean, people... It's just like, I know in the early days of the pandemic, it's like, what are you going to do? Well, I guess
you're going to do home projects.
I need to do that project that I've been saying I'm going to do for the last 7 years since we bought the house.
And now you have no excuse.
Can relate.
Yeah.
Not that you can relate, right, Joe?
Yeah.
The honey-do list.
I like do-it-yourself projects. It's just that, the do-it-yourself project that should take, an hour takes you like 5 hours with 2 trips. Back and
3 or 4 YouTube videos. Like, once you do the first one wrong, you're like, I'm going to pull that tile down.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say anything wrong about it because I had to snake
a toilet?
No, it wasn't a toilet. It was a sink. It was a sink. I had no idea what I was doing. I went to Home Depot 3 times to get the same product.
Although they're amazing there, though. If you just ask people, they will get you to what you need. They will tell you how to do it, and they'll save you those 3 trips if you just ask. Because I'm in there all the time, and I ask. I bring things with me.
I don't know what Lowe's you're going to. I can never find anybody to help me.
I was going to say, like at Ace. I don't know if you have an Ace in hardware in your neighborhood, but
the helpful place.
Yes, they only hire 60-year-old retired plumbers and mechanics and welders and stuff, and those dudes know everything.
Yeah, my neighborhood's a little too diverse for Ace Hardware.
Oh yeah.
Let's just be honest.
I don't know what that means.
Look, I never saw an Ace Hardware until I moved to Tampa Bay.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. You're not going to find one in the more diverse neighborhoods. You'll find them in, you're find them out east. You'll find them in Brandon and Plant City, Valrico, Ruskin, Apollo Beach.
Growing up, you could go to Sears and have the same thing. You could talk
Sears?
to an adult.
Just a different kind of hardware store.
Now you go to a Sears and you've got to...
you mean Sears. Like
what'd I say?
Sears department store.
Are you making fun of my southern accent?
I mean, yes and always.
I said you go to a Sears and they have a
Why does it sound so funny?
Now they have 18-year-olds there who don't know any tools or anything, so you can't really get.
Right, you got to teach them stuff.
I go to Sears right now when I want to socially distance.
But there's a big problem right now. Even at Best Buy, I'll go up to, again, these are all mostly 20-somethings, maybe early 30-somethings, and I will ask them for very specific items, and they have no clue what I'm talking about. I don't know who they're hiring or why they're hiring these people, but they have no idea what's going on.
Aren't you? Yeah, but I mean, if I went in there, I don't.
Well, you can't go in and ask for the 8-track converter or anything.
Oh, okay.
Dang, you're beating up on Joe.
Actually,
we're only 9 minutes into this thing.
That was so absurd.
Sorry.
Does your phone flip?
It's so absurd. It's funny. Let me pull out my flip phone. Hey, those razors. Hey, but the razor was popular.
The razor was
really
popular. Remember the razor?
They're bringing it back. Did you see the new Samsung commercial?
The razor was like that. It was
no buttons this time.
It's like a razor. Remember when you had to send a text? You had 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You had to tap it 3 and 4 times to get to the proper letter.
I remember those days. I had a Nokia. Yeah.
So to me, this economy shows that the
is that what we were talking about?
Good job.
The framework
Thank you, sir.
is there. Okay, this is what happens when you have a good system, you have good regulatory policy, you have the ability of your people to allocate resources in the most economic way possible. This is what happens when you have the good format of the country. This will not continue to happen if we have a Biden presidency. every regulatory body is going to begin to burden all of our businesses, as you've seen, Joe. We're going to have this potential that we have now to rebound, to have the greatest economy we've had again, as we had in January, will not exist in this time next year if we have a Biden presidency.
I think
you've only got about another month or two to probably open things up before some businesses are completely shut down. I think I saw where so far 100,000 restaurants have closed.
Ted Cruz
Yeah,
figured
they're
out a
just
whole bunch
not
of
right.
big national chains that everyone knows that have been closed permanently.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And it'll take time to re-dig ourselves out of that trench hole. But something that I think people need to understand, that a lot of what we saw was pent up demand from the time that we were shut down, purchasing home good, durable goods and everything else. So we might not see that additional pop in November or December for the fourth quarter.
But that was the thing the president's been trying to say for a long time. And again, this is one of those areas where he doesn't communicate very well, because again, all the same characteristics are there, right? The formula is all still there. What happened was, once you threw in the coronavirus on top, it obviously put a stop to everything. But as you begin to peel the coronavirus back and start to reopen the economy, again, like the formula is all still there. So all these businesses should up and flourish. So again, I mean, we were talking off camera just before the show, Anibal, and I have never made as much money as I've made in the past 2 months. Like in 2 months, I've made more money in these 2 months than I ever have in 2 months, I would say, in my entire career.
Wow.
And so the again, all the factors, all the economic factors are there, and people are really urging to get back to normalcy and want to get back to a normal environment. And the best thing is that the economic environment is there waiting for it. It's just a matter of whether or not we can get out of this coronavirus thing that just won't go away.
But there are other things that are going to counterbalance, I won't say headwinds, when it comes to the revivance of the economy, which is unemployment insurance is starting to end. So we're going to see a lot of 10 million people that were getting unemployment insurance before are not going to get as much as they were getting in the past. We're seeing millions in unemployment, and they're going to be spending far less in their current. And then we're going to have lots of cutbacks with state and local governments that won't be able to get the same funding that they were able to get last year. So we have a lot of headwinds going into the fourth quarter.
Those things have to happen, though. So what I consider those is government Band-Aids. Essentially government Band-Aids that are holding up the pain from, like we talked about this before, holding the pain from occurring in the economy. The economy needs that pain to correct to get it in the place it needs to be. The economy can cope with a lot of stuff. The free market economy can take a lot of stress, a lot of pain. But when you have the government keeping these things from setting in, then it creates this potential for a negative outcome. When you have these things just being, floated by the government. It's like if I were to quit my job and just put everything on a credit card for 8 months. It's a terrible fiscal policy.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a state senator show up on the feed here, so I just want to give a shout out. I don't know if you can say his name or not. So anyway, glad to have you, Senator.
Well, big shout out to everybody in the chat room there. So we've got Devin Alexander watching. He's become one of our regulars. So we've got Hector, of course, always giving us great, back end context. He said he had the Dolce & Gabbana razor there, Joe. I don't know if you were that fancy, but Hector had the Dolce & Gabbana razor.
I'm pretty sure I was never that fancy.
I don't know who pulled that out.
And then Ruby Tuesdays entered bankruptcy. I'm surprised Ruby Tuesdays still around,
I think
honestly.
they were already going downhill before.
Yeah, they've been struggling for some
pandemic, but
time.
Down in
definitely
Brandon,
didn't
the
help.
Brandon one.
Shout out to Darren Slim,
They did.
Bang Shrimp.
Yeah, the Brandon.
Yeah.
Right.
Brandon.
Wow.
Brandon
That's a
one.
different restaurant.
That's
Whatever.
bonefish.
Different
with the
Ruby.
bang bang.
Let's not talk about
Different
that.
day of the week.
So again, this is what we have been predicting all along, right?
But
this
if the big corporate brands, though, but if the big corporate brands are closing up shop because they've got the money to, to kind of survive,
restructure,
Yeah, but they were
and-
already having problems before the pandemic.
Yeah, and so when you say they shut down, are they just going into bankruptcy protection to revamp and get back out there?
Some of them
healthy, or are they done?
Well, like for example, the Village Inn, the two Village Inn locations in the Brandon Valrico area here in Tampa Bay,
Are they done?
they would have closed, like the one in Tampa closed on Dale Mabry, but the 2 Brandon area locations have actually been bought up by local ownership. They were originally corporate owned. They are now locally owned. Again, Hector adding here saying Applebee's and IHOP are shutting down locations. I'm pretty sure
Tomatoes is toast.
Oh, they're been gone.
they're
They've been gone.
done.
You know why, though?
So.
Because that was buffet style, though, and with everything
Yeah.
going on, they couldn't even survive with the limited capacity that was
Right.
opened up. Because, I mean, how can you do that with people breathing all over
Mary
the food?
Kemper said
So-
Valrico one closed.
And look, to an extent, I mean, obviously, it's trying to spin it in a positive way
Okay,
here,
but Fred's
but I
in
think this cleans.
Fred's is amazing.
Fred's is buffet.
Fred,
Fred's is
yeah.
buffet. It ain't closed.
But this is, my point being is
Almost see
that's
to
actually a good example. I think it kind of cleans the waters, if you will, and
Yeah.
opens up opportunity for new restaurants, new
Yeah.
companies,
If
new
your business was
new
not,
startups.
If your business was not in good financial shape prior to COVID, you're done.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So basically, it cleans out all the bad. I say bad businesses, the businesses that just weren't doing the right thing.
And odds are we are probably going to get another form of PPP after the election cycle.
so?
And they're probably, they still had almost $200 billion that still needed to get spent.
Isn't it a shame that they basically won't do another round of PPP simply because of the politics?
Oh, yeah. We were all expecting something to come out the last 2 weeks.
But
before
then,
that.
as a fiscal conservative, though, couldn't you make the argument then maybe we really don't need it, right?
that's
because
McConnell was
I
saying
don't
that we
know
don't
how
need
many,
it.
Well, how many of the 100,000 restaurants would have stayed open? I mean, if you're going to have perpetual shutdown, then I guess you could make the argument there's no point in even doing it, because if you're going to stay shut down like California, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
Business. See, what people don't understand is that even if you have a solid business with good margins that's healthy, you can't not make money for like 3 whole months. I mean,
It's throwing in the toilet.
I mean, this is
It's literally throwing in the
you're
toilet.
not Apple. You don't have like $50 billion sitting in an account. I mean, like.
But doesn't that's where the conversation goes? Should the government be required to give some kind of fiscal bump to individual businesses because they're the ones that are forcing the shutdown?
No, the government shouldn't be allowed to shut things down.
But
It's
but
putting money on my
and I
personal
get
credit
that.
card.
Yeah.
Basically, all of our credit
but
cards.
take it one step back. If the government is telling
As-
the business to shut down, shouldn't the government also be responsible of giving
As a
some
fiscal
kind of?
conservative, I hate the idea of all this spending because I know that we really shouldn't be doing it. But to Anibal's point, and as a business owner, when you tell somebody they can't operate, giving that person then some funding or whatever it is to keep employees employed or to bring them back or whatnot, normally we would start saying that this is bailouts and socialism and all that, but really what it is, it's restitution.
Yes.
For having a closure
It's
business,
restitution. We're making you close, so here is the funding to keep your people employed so that when we lift the lockdown, you can go back to normal operations because that's beneficial for everybody. Because if you don't have a job, you're not paying any taxes, so it's better. But, I mean, that's why I was saying about California, that if you're going to stay locked down for 2021, I mean, there's no amount of funding,
money.
there's no amount of help that you can provide.
Well, and that's why you're seeing celebrities, more open-minded celebrities and business owners leave the state. Because they're like, look, if I stay here, I can't do my craft. I can't do my business. So I might as well take it elsewhere and see if I can succeed elsewhere and continue operations. I mean, we saw even Musk. I think if Musk hadn't already built the infrastructure he has in that state, I think he would have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah, it's hard to pull that up, but
No one's having to make hard decisions right now. If you had to choose between feeding your family and staying locked in your house because you felt unsafe, what do you think is more pressing issue? Feeding your family or staying locked in your house because you have a 99.997% chance of survival?
I think a lot of people are making those hard choices.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
They're being insulated from making hard choices by the PPP and programs like it.
But
They're not, though, because only the businesses are getting the PPE. The people themselves have lost the federal unemployment funding. A lot of places are doing like reduced hours at work.
But if your business is being covered by PPP, you're also being insulated. If your job's being protected by
business
PPP.
owner, but as an employee,
But if you're an employee of those businesses, you're also being insulated.
no. So okay.
you're
so,
not making what you would have made if you were doing restaurants and you were getting tips or you had people coming in and out. Like, people are not making the money they would have made before.
Yeah, it's still insulation though.
So
You're not having to choose.
So what PPP was supposed to do okay, if you're using it correctly, is the business owner is supposed to use it to make payroll. It should be the payroll that you had previously to the shutdown. In fact, one of the rules of PPP, because I went through this process, was that an employee's wage couldn't drop below 25% of what it was previously.
Correct.
So you had to provide their payroll to a certain level. Now, to Jodie's point, tips, I mean, I don't even know how you quantify that. I mean, I know a lot of stuff is on credit card now, so a lot of the tips are
Yes.
they can track it.
Yes.
And taxed,
But-
yeah.
But cash tips, I mean, I don't see any way that the business owner could actually prove that that's what the person
they
made.
shouldn't.
So,
They
and they probably
shouldn't.
and they wouldn't
That
have
becomes
to.
an IRS.
So to Jodie's point, in that regard, hey, if you wasn't claiming your tips, now you might not be getting them.
Yeah.
So that's the downside. If you
Well.
weren't claiming them, now you're not going to get it.
And now
Well-
we're seeing that different states' reactions to how they handled shutdowns. And some states are still fully shut. I could not imagine living in a state that's still fully shut down.
I would move.
California, New York, some of the other northeastern states. You can't function as a human being.
A lot of the people that I work with are all over the country, right? The country and kind of like a lot of Europe, and even like my family in Massachusetts, they're like, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? And I'm like, dude, Florida's open. We've been open.
Yeah.
We're open. We're
Yeah.
good. We're open for business. Like, people are so surprised when I'm like, oh, I'm going to the bar, or I'm going to go do karaoke, or
Hell yes.
whatever the situation is. But they're very, very surprised at how open Florida is. And it's like, I haven't gotten it yet, and I go out and I do a lot of things. It's just being safe, right? I think a lot of these states should open
We
up and let
have
people
to
try
open
it.
up safely. We have to open up. That's it, period.
All right, thank you to everybody watching the Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Jonny Torres, VerKuilen, Joe Wicker, Jodie Lopes, and Anibal Cabrera. That's right, we got the whole gang out here today. Thank you so much for watching. And the chat room, man, the comments section blowing up here. Want to give a quick shout out to Nick, Matthew, James, adding some great sound bites in here. If the vaccine comes out, another stimulus doesn't need to be as big or happen. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of skepticism about the vaccine. The vaccine's already been politicized, and so you've got that to struggle with. Hispanic restaurants and food trucks are doing pretty well right now because they typically have low overhead. They're in, they typically are in maybe not as great kind of strip malls and food trucks, obviously, again, very low overhead. So they were able to adjust a lot better to the circumstances during the shutdown. And then Matthew also adding that Elon Musk staying in California because they bought the Toyota joint venture with GM plant in the San Francisco Bay Area. If he leaves, he has to give back the huge tax break that he got. Otherwise, he'd be gone. And so, hey, kudos to California for kind of locking him down like that. But I think he highly regrets it. I'm pretty sure he regrets it. Hector's hitting on a sore spot of mine, which is why are we still pumping money into Amtrak? And look, I love Amtrak. I've actually ridden Amtrak a bunch of times. I usually take it like once or twice a year, inevitably. Great service, but I don't understand. Again, if it's not self-sustaining, then why are we continuing to dump money into it? And these trains are full. And so again, like I don't know what. Oh yeah. It's pretty crazy. I mean, at least from Tampa and Orlando and Miami, like where I've seen, it's always been a full boat, and it's a great way to travel. I mean, and honestly, if you're driving it only adds on maybe a half hour to an hour to your drive, depending on how fast you drive. But it's much more comfortable. I mean, you're in a big comfy seat. You got Wi-Fi, So I don't know. I mean, again, love Amtrak, but I don't know why we continue to subsidize
It
it.
needs to go bankrupt and have a private company buy its assets, and then
Brightline.
people who buy the tickets know the actual cost instead of all of us as
It's the
taxpayers pay a third of the
Yeah.
tickets and you pay.
Sell it to Brightline.
Never going to happen.
It's the pensions. It's the pensions.
Yeah,
Pensions.
and sell it to
That's
Brightline.
exactly what we're doing.
So, all right. So let me go ahead and bring back up our topics. So we just discussed GDP numbers and kind of the economic situation we're in right now. European shutdown. And that's right. And not to kind of rub it in their face, but, while at least according to our media, we have been the irresponsible ones at the global scale in this pandemic. Countries like Germany, France, having to lock it down again. Of course, I think, based on what we just talked about, I don't see the country shutting down the way it did the first time. I think certain states like Florida and some of the other certainly red states, I don't think are going to lock down in the same way. I think they've learned their lesson on that point. But European shutdown, is it tied? I know, Anibal, you seem to think that it's tied to the terrorist attacks. Obviously, they're trying to maybe cover this up with blaming coronavirus. What's going on over in Europe?
That's definitely not what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I didn't make it.
Well, I thought that's what you were implying before the show.
Well, that's not what I'm implying at all.
It is helping keep some of the borders safer right now, though. But
so the borders around a lot of European countries have been closed since March.
Yeah.
So, and it took me forever to get back to Paris. But I will say at the moment France is almost in a complete lockdown.
You're saying from an immigration standpoint, their border. When you said their borders are shut down, did you mean no immigration? Is that what you mean?
They have not been allowed to move from country to country inside the EU.
So they weren't for a little while. So they were shut down for a little while in the beginning.
Racist, and something else.
They were shut down a little bit in the beginning, but then they opened back up again, so you could freely travel in the EU if you were an EU citizen.
And you had to still do a quarantine, 14 days.
Yes, they still wanted you to quarantine,
that's
but
right,
now
that's
they're
right.
Yeah.
But
It's an
now
entire
they're back,
holiday.
Yeah. Now they're back into a lockdown, but what they're doing with the borders is in order to check who's coming in and stuff, they've actually put troops at some of the borders in the country.
And now you have to show
they're
your
checking
papers
you. Yeah.
when you're walking through some parts of Europe.
What?
And
Asking for papers and locking down the borders? Oh my God! What
So,
a travesty!
At the,
European
How
races.
dare they?
So over the weekend, we had a few friends from Paris. They took them almost 12 hours to leave the city of Paris because so many people were trying to get out of the city before lockdowns. It took-
Do not underestimate Europe's ability to go fascist overnight.
So besides Germany,
They have a history of this or something like that.
besides
They did kind of write the book on it. I mean,
write the book.
You say write the book?
Okay, we're going sideways.
they write the book.
No, we can't go there. Okay, so Germany is at
went
a partial
Enough.
shutdown. France is at a complete shutdown for a month coming up. Spain is at a partial shutdown with riots happening in Barcelona. Italy is having protests in Rome. And the United Kingdom and Wales is also starting to have issues there in those places. And then the Prime Minister of Poland actually got COVID. So that's become a real big issue. So what's happening now is that the pushback within the European Union is so great, with the far right wanting to push back and saying that they should have done something of the Scandinavian countries or even Sweden when it came to their form of reactions to the virus. And so now we're seeing Italy having a large spike again, Brussels having a huge spike. And to show, like, you would assume the Europeans would have done a much better job wearing a mask and making sure they're doing what they're supposed to do.
That's
for
what CNN
society says.
So our government, I mean, because I don't really track Europe, but like, are any of their parliaments getting ready to, have a no confidence vote, or are they going to fall apart? Are they going to have to reconstitute their government?
The only two countries that are having that issue at the moment is Italy and Spain, that the parliaments are looking that they might switch, but their elections aren't until March.
Okay, so somebody's about to get fired in Europe.
What's funny, though, is this is happening at a peculiar time. Like, I would imagine the Democrats cornered with their friends over in Europe, and they're like, we need you to stay healthy so we can prove the U.S. is a bad, irresponsible, orange bad country until November 4th. And they failed. They were short by 2 freaking days.
Actually, they're going to be over because the UK doesn't go into full lockdown until Thursday.
But they announced it, so the news is out. The cat is out of the European bag.
Although I know you said Spain was only partially shut down, but from my coworkers out there, it's in full shutdown.
Madrid is in full shutdown. Madrid, Valencia, and Barcelona are in full shutdown. But a lot of the other provinces are half.
Well, they're so spread out, too. It's okay. I mean, I don't know. I think that when you look at the stuff that's going on in Europe, though, and you compare it to, like, our climate in the U.S., and you think about the ways that the virus survives, right? And I'm making all this up because nobody knows, right? But I think that
Fauci.
it just, there you go. I'm just gonna spew it. But it's like it is colder over there. They are in subways and trains, and they're all kind of hobbled together places, and it's a little different than here, and I think that's why they're spiking a little bit.
Density
and they
is higher in Europe.
They just went back to offices. Like, for my UK office, they just went back within the last, month, and it was sparse who went back, but still getting in and out of the city was very difficult.
What confuses me is that I thought the objective, if you go back to 15, what was it? 15 to
weeks. Was it weeks?
No, it was 15 days to flatten the curve. It was 15 days to flatten the curve, or 14 days to flatten curve. Turned into 30 days to flatten the curve. Turned into 45 days
to 14 months.
And then people just stopped talking about flattening the curve. And
what is a curve?
Yeah, what I don't get is that the whole premise of this in the very beginning was, if the hospitals become overwhelmed, people that are sick cannot be cared for. So therefore, the whole objective here, yes, stop the virus from spreading, but primarily to flatten the curve. Okay, we have been successful at that at a state level. We've been successful at that at a country level. And I think I can say that even Europe has also been rather successful at flattening the curve. So if hospitals are not overwhelmed, why do we keep moving the goalposts? Why is it now that it's about infections? And you'll notice that in the news, they used to talk about deaths.
They don't anymore.
Okay? They used to talk about ICU beds. They used to talk about
ventilators.
Hospitals. They used to talk about ventilators. They used to talk about hospitalizations. Now,
no more of that.
all we hear about are cases.
It's been used as a political cudgel this whole time. The entire purpose of this has been, look at the orange man who is bad in orange, because we have an inevitable source of illness and deaths amongst American people that no one could have done a better job in. I mean, we had our projections from Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci saying we could have 200,000 to 2 million people dead. And she said specifically, if we have 200,000 die, it will have been the absolute perfect scenario. And here we are, 6-7 months later, with 200,000 dead, and we've had, essentially, we've done everything the right way.
It seems like what's missing, truly, for the American people to be able to handle this in a I guess, a better way without all the back and forth about whether masks work or not, whatnot, and for all of us around the world, is to have clearly defined and achievable objectives. And flattening the curve was a clearly defined, achievable objective. And when we were achieving that, then all of a sudden it got confusing. And then it was like we threw that standard out. And now what is the standard now? Is the standard number of deaths per, is it an infection fatality rate? Is it a case fatality rate? Is it the percentage of infections per 100,000 people? Is it hospital beds, the percentage of hospital beds occupied? What is the standard by which we can understand whether we're doing good, not doing good, and more importantly, whether we are open or closed? Because if the American people don't know that, then people start throwing their hands up and saying,
then we just don't care.
I got to go back to work then. You can't even explain to me what success looks like, so I got to go back to work.
And I think that's where we find ourselves right now. Because anyone that's looking at this objectively would say, how on earth are you blaming Orange Man bad of how we handle the pandemic when Europe, which is always far center left, has done the exact same issue and having much more bigger problems than we are. Now, we can say that it's because the population differences, that there are a lot more individuals that are over the age of 65. Their infrastructure in Europe is horrible when it comes to medical usage and hospital beds. And so we were listening to a report from Leon that they were making comments that they have 15 beds out of 18 filled. And I'm like, what hospital do you know only has 18 beds? Like, that's
small.
insane.
But that's just a small little town.
Okay, Leon is not a small town. It's like the
Leon
size.
is large.
Oh,
Yeah, Leon is the size of it's like a big Newport Richie. I mean, do we have a hospital in Newport Richie with 20
We have
beds?
a couple hospitals in Newport Richie,
Exactly.
right? Like,
and so I think
But they have baguettes.
But
Not
here's,
very good
but
baguettes.
here's
They
the
have
thing,
oysters,
and I'm not suggesting that a full hospital bed is a good thing, because obviously we don't want somebody to be sick. But what people fail to realize is that hospitals don't exactly run themselves from the standpoint of wanting as few customers as possible.
Right.
They actually build hospitals based off of math, the demographics of the population, the prevalence of disease and hospitalizations and whatnot, and they actually want to be like 85% capacity.
well, I was just reading the other day. I think that they usually do run at almost 90% capacity on
Exactly.
a normal basis.
It is not
Yeah.
uncommon. It's not uncommon on a Friday or Saturday night for a hospital to be on what's called diversion.
Yep.
So for
Precisely.
for TGH to be diverting, people that don't need a level 1 unit to Brandon Regional as an example, or to Memorial. So being on diversion is not even an uncommon thing. But now all of a sudden, if you're 85% of your beds are full, it's a catastrophe. And that's just because people don't understand. And when the media presents it that way, it does sound bad. Oh my gosh, 90% of the beds are full. Yeah, but that's a Friday night in any major cities.
Well, here, let me add a couple
Entirely
things.
by design.
Let me add a couple things. Matthew James asking if the European shutdowns increase the likelihood of more EU countries leaving, doing a Brexit kind of thing from the
That's
EU.
interesting, yeah.
I would say,
They don't
yeah,
even know
probably.
how
Has
Brexit's
anybody
going
said
to roll
anything?
out yet. So.
Poland.
Well, and to answer, again, kind of some of the political fallout from this is actually that now there's actually a anti-lockdown party forming in
That's
Britain.
Europe for you.
It's
That's
it's the same
Europe.
guy who formed the Brexit party.
Oh,
And so he was like
okay.
successful with that. So he's like
Nigel Farage.
Nigel Farage.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So our
that
good,
man has been able to
Dude,
predict
I
a
love that guy.
lot of
No, he's hilarious.
he's
to
tapped
watch.
in,
a
man.
lot of
he's
movements,
tapped in.
grassroots movements.
He's
so
one of these
fun to
guys that
watch.
can't quite get the brass ring. Like he'll never be prime minister.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
he's tapped into the people.
Yeah.
He'll
yeah.
never be prime minister.
So
He's fun to watch. I actually enjoy watching the House of Commons. Well, although he's the EU, but I enjoy watching the House of Commons. And
No,
as
yeah.
a political nerd. And when Nigel Farage was giving his like Brexit speeches at the EU, oh my gosh! I mean,
They're
it was just
great.
troll level 1,000.
Oh yeah.
And the Europeans don't know how to handle something like that.
Right.
It's very braggadocious. They don't know how to deal with it.
Oh, they mute the
they
mic
just-
and they
yeah.
and
And then he
because they
just
have
yells it.
Yeah, well, they have translators, so everything is being translated. They're all wearing their stuff, so they have the mic like gets muted, and then like the Secretary General, whatever they call them, the czar, whoever it is, comes over the mic and it's like, the gentleman from Great Britain will please refrain from talking poorly of the neighbor states. Go ahead. And then he turns the mic back on, and then his mic is back on. It's hilarious.
So something that's also happening in Europe recently, besides the lockdowns that have occurred, has been the terrorist attacks that have happened the last 7 days. There have been multiple beheadings, 3 killed of Islamic terrorist stabbings, 2 attacks that took place.
No motives known.
No motives.
Don't know what the motive
Two
is.
attacks took place on Thursday, one in France and then one in Saudi Arabia.
No motive,
A
completely
man
random.
was shot dead in the southern French city of Avignon. And then we have other issues with what happened today, which happened in Vienna. It's very shocking to see what happened in that one because it was very close to a Jewish synagogue, and there's videotape of the attacker actually shooting and killing someone. So it's very violent what's happening now, and it's throwing Europe off a little bit because with the shutdowns, it's happening at the same time. I'm not thinking it's correlated, but it just makes it much more difficult.
I think it's funny that you say no motive because I'm on board with Europe in the way that they call out terrorism. Like we would sit around and dick around with that conversation for weeks and then be mad at somebody for calling it terrorism.
Oh, no,
whereas
that's
they
what
come
they're
right out with it like before,
I don't know.
as it hits the papers.
Even as
they're
politically
calling it
correct as they
exactly
are.
what
Yeah.
it is, and I'm proud of them for that.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of beating around the
Prime
bush,
Min- yeah,
they
President-
don't handle these things well with their batons. But I mean,
but then like President Macron, like his response with the cartoon of Prophet Muhammad was like, look, yeah, I get it, you don't like it, but I'm not gonna say that people can't do it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even he got a lot of pushback from
That's
the
how we
Muslim
handle things
community.
in Europe.
But that's what the French have always said. Look, you don't like it, but we're still going to allow it. And if that's your response is violent, then maybe France is not for
Yeah,
you.
they're bringing some of this on themselves, though, man.
Definitely
They're bringing
they are.
some of this on themselves.
So real quick on the coronavirus, someone who will remain anonymous has told me that they're in actually one of the clinical trials for the vaccine,
They're one of the 30,000.
So I guess so. And so they had a bad reaction to it, which means they actually they didn't get like a placebo or anything because they had a bad reaction after the second shot. But they're saying that technically they are now immune. So that's
but
going
did
to be.
they put them in a
yeah.
room full of COVID people and ask them to cough on them? How do they know that they're immune now?
I wouldn't use the word
You test for
immune.
antibodies.
Well, the antibodies.
Well, yeah, but I think that.
But that doesn't stay in your system the whole time.
And the fact that you have antibodies, I'm sorry, but it does not convince me that it hasn't mutated or something else. Like, if we can't figure out what is going on with the strain that's been out there for 6-7 months
As of right now, there are
then
2
why
strains.
do we? Yeah, so why do we think that this vaccination is going to work against everything? It's like the flu,
Well, it might
right?
not. Well,
this
it might
is
not.
the
Yeah.
new flu.
It
We're
is.
going to have a different
It's actually
strain.
the new common cold.
Yes.
Not even a flu.
We're going to get a shot every single year to make sure that this doesn't happen again. The death rate will go even lower than what it is right now. But to think that we're going to get rid of this by
is part
mid-year
of human.
is so stupid.
This is part of human life. This has been happening since the dawn of time.
Well, this is the definition that's been given to me, which is that immunity is detected because of the antibody response, which is much higher than the level of antibodies from somebody who actually got COVID.
Right. It's not that you have the antibodies; it's how your antibodies attack the virus when it comes back to you again. So it's not whether you have them or not. It's just how are they helping your body fight it off?
Yeah, and so if your antibodies are able to attack it faster than it's able to infect you, then you're immune.
Also, to be a real big nerd right now, the reason why we're having this is we didn't have this in the past. We had this once we started domesticating animals. And so because once that started, allowed for the diffusion of different diseases.
Okay, I'm sorry. He said goes back to mankind. Then let's just 1300. What makes you feel better?
I mean, I'm not. Like, I know, I get it, but like, there's a reason why there was not a form of smallpox that came from the United States to Europe. Is because the North and South America, and I saw that North and South America did not have a form of domesticating animals, and so they didn't have the transmissions between animals and humans, whereas Europe and Asia had the transitions between human and mammals, which caused the viruses like the Black Plague and all the others.
Yeah, look, this is something that's not going away. And Nick Williamson,
and they didn't have toilet paper.
Anibal's friend,
didn't have toilet paper. So.
Well, Anibal's friend makes a good case here, which is that the human race has never destroyed a virus.
Correct.
I mean, it's always dormant, polio, whatever. You know, it's dormant, it's out there.
We're getting there.
You know, but we've never truly eradicated
the
a
other thing
virus.
that people don't. I mean, if you give enough people vaccines over a long period of time, then you effectively. I mean, polio is effectively eradicated in the United States. So we don't have to really worry about it. But the other thing that people don't realize is that actually a lot of the diseases that we don't come in contact with it, but a lot of the things that you got immunized when you were a kid, guess what? 20 years and that vaccine's not really any good anymore. So technically, you're supposed to be getting the boosters, and most adults don't.
Wait, you're telling me I got to get a booster? Like measles, mumps, rubella?
You should be getting boosters. You should be getting boosters.
Well, I don't even get a flu shot, so I don't feel like I should go get a booster. But
now, and I'm not saying the Army does things the right way, but when I went on active duty, I showed up with my yellow card. Like my mom had saved it. Yeah, my mom had saved it. Had all my vaccines, and I was so proud. I was like, "Aha! I got all my vaccines." And they were like, nope. they were like, "Sit down. We don't care about that." Oh, when did you get that? Oh, you were 5. Yeah, they threw that out. They were like, "Sit down."
All right, so let's go ahead and move on. We got lots to talk about, and of course, we want to get into the elections. So here we go. Election polls. Is it 2016 all over again, or are they actually going to be a little bit more accurate this time around? That's still going to be a tough prediction. And so we're seeing lots of numbers. I know Anibal's got some numbers. I've got 538 pulled up right now. Also, Joe Gruters, who, love me some Joe Gruters. He's been pretty active on Twitter. Recently just retweeted from an Insider Advantage Fox 35 Orlando poll. Says Trump's up by 1. To me, that tells me that Biden's done.
Nationwide or in
no, Florida.
Oh yeah, no.
Florida's up by Trump's up by 1. That tells me Florida's done.
Yeah.
He's got Florida.
Trump's got Florida.
Do you guys feel like for the polling and stuff that you've been contacted by more Democratic, like just more of
I've not gotten contacted.
leaning? There hasn't been a Republican group I think that's contacted
they usually
me
don't tell you that.
But I don't know. I feel like when they call me, I don't know. Maybe I just think they sound like a Democrat.
The person, honestly, I've gotten polled quite a bit. I've gotten polled quite a bit.
From your cell phone or from your landline?
On my cell phone.
My cell phone.
On my cell phone.
My
and the sad thing is, but I have my cell phone as the voter record, so they can get my number just by pulling it from the rolls. But I mean, sometimes, and I mean, I get it. They're just people working, trying to make a living, right? But like, they'll ask me, and they can't pronounce the name of the candidate. And then I'm like telling them, like, I'm like, oh, you mean so and so? Yeah. No, I'm definitely voting. Anyway.
So, but it's funny because I do think, at least it's seemingly, people are a little bit more informed. I mean, because now you almost can't avoid it, especially this cycle. It just every company known to man is gotten in on the get out to vote messaging, and of course it's now just in everything. It's in our pop culture, it's in our mainstream culture, it's in the news, it's in, and so I think people are starting to get a little bit more educated on what's happening, like beyond the federal level.
Oh no,
but no, you don't think so?
I think they're being inundated with nonsense from both sides. Yes. I mean, I don't think anyone is getting any more educated. I just think that they're getting more brainwashed from both sides of the party. I don't think there's
but in regards to outreach
research happening.
So before we get into the numbers, because this is actually something that I'm scratching my head about.
Shout out to Holly.
is the fact that Trump has had an active campaign all along, and the Biden campaign virtually did nothing up until maybe the last month or so, in terms of door knocking and that sort of thing. Like, what does that say about the political process if Biden ends up winning and doing virtually nothing in terms of a ground game versus the ground game that we're seeing even Trump till today doing 5 stops in one day? Yesterday, another 5 stops. His last rally didn't even start till 12:30 at night.
And these aren't small rallies either. Pennsylvania, 57,000 people. Miami, how big was Miami?
Oh, thousands. I don't know. I mean, and our Miami ringer is stepped away for a second, but there were thousands of people. I mean, certainly a lot more than I ever saw for Romney. Yeah. And again, when you talk about the boat parades, the caravans, to see, like, in some of the most densely Hispanic parts of Miami, seeing Trump caravans still blows my mind. And knowing, that area like I do, again, he's +8 going into election day. And that's insane to me.
Broward County, that's crazy.
Trump's +8 where?
In Miami-Dade County.
Miami-Dade
County.
So is the caravan, is that a new phenomenon, or did I just not notice it?
I think it's because of social distancing. So what happened was we started with the boat parades because that was all we were allowed to do.
Which we all participated in.
And we did the boat parade. That's right, we did. You're welcome. And then it went to the cars and the golf carts, and just instead of having all these basic rallies and stuff, I think it's a completely new phenomenon that's happening this year. Because did you ever drive in anything
This was
before?
never a thing.
Yeah.
Previous to Donald Trump.
Yep.
And so actually, and we were talking
especially
about
the boat parades.
Yeah, and we were talking about this
boat parades
earlier,
for sure.
is that this is actually a very Latin, Central America, South America, Caribbean thing of the caravans. It's something that happens in Puerto Rico, happens in Dominican Republic, where people...
Not in Colombia.
No, not in Colombia, because you'll get shut up. So in Puerto Rico, there'll be groups of supporters that will go from village to village in a car caravan with the sound system, and they'll make a big to-do, and they'll hold a mini rally, and they'll move to the next one to inform the village of who are they supporting. Mm-hmm. And it's a thing that goes round and round. Now, I have never seen this in Florida. You saw it a little bit in West Tampa last time. You've seen it maybe once or twice for the Obama, because they were trying to get the Latin vote. And this is a lot of people know exactly what this looks like. And they take, no, I don't say offend, they think it's pretty cool that it's become an American thing as well. And again, I agree. It's because of the pandemic that we're in this situation right now. But the fact that the enthusiasm led to a new creation in the political system in America, fascinating. Could the Biden have done a boat thing? Yeah, they could have easily done it.
No, they couldn't.
They could have.
There's a lot of Democrats that own boats too.
Yeah, they could have done the boat
are.
thing. Okay, so the next thing, could the Democrats have done a caravan? We've been doing caravans for 2 or 3
Well,
months
they're starting to do some of them now.
Yeah.
Because they're following the Trump
copycat,
ones.
right?
Yeah.
And nowhere near the size.
Well, they're small.
I think it's the hardcore Biden voters, which of course there's a lot of them too, and but they haven't had an outlet. Mm-hmm. No one's letting them campaign.
Right.
No, they can't do anything. So I think some of them are like, screw this. We're gonna go. We're gonna do a parade.
Well, and that's and the thing is though, and again, and I know us as kind of Trump supporters or Republicans, we kind of do it as like a little kind of jab, but their campaign is more about, and it's not too dissimilar from the Trump campaign in 2016. It's more about hating Trump than it is about supporting Joe Biden. And I don't think it works for them. I don't think it's working for them.
I don't think they have enough behind the hate.
And because typically a positive campaign is going to win over a more negative campaign, I think, psychologically, when you have the right components to be able to justify, right? You know, you look at Barack Obama, he ran on hope and change, right? It was a positive message. Everybody got really excited about it, right? But, you know, again, as a new / not politician, Trump ran a very negative campaign because he didn't have really much to run on in terms of politics, but he did have a lot of dirt on Hillary. And so running that negative campaign, also very powerful. So I think you got to go extremely one way or the other. But the truth is that you don't see the excitement for Joe Biden as you do for Trump. And don't look, what we are seeing in terms of support and excitement for Donald Trump, again, I've never seen in my lifetime. I can't remember a time, maybe, I don't know, JFK. I don't know. Like, I don't, you know, like when have we ever seen this level of, because it's not just the rallies. I mean, I remember like towards the end, Romney had huge rallies and I was like, oh my God, like Romney might actually pull this thing off. And kind of being blinded by being inside the bubble. But this excitement and passion for President Trump has been going on for well over a year and a half. The caravans, the boat parades, like this is massive grassroots undertaking, you know, with no. The reason I discount the rallies is because they are planned and organized by the campaign. These caravans and boat parades and all this other stuff is not. And that to me signifies the true excitement and grassroots support that the president has.
So Matthew James is saying that caravans is something that was a bit retro back in the 30s and 40s. Trucks with loudspeakers and candidates would go from community to community. And I see that, and we've seen it also with candidates. But
well, I remember from Back to the Future.
Yeah, but it's
re-elect Mayor Goldie Wilson.
It's different. It's different when and Jonny said this already. It's different when the campaign does it to when a local club does it.
Yeah, sure.
Or when it's not even a club, just a group of people.
It's just Facebook groups, to be honest. And I'm surprised we were able to organize all of these things because, like the boat parade we did, that was entirely Facebook. You know, or it's like these little parades that are popping up here and there. Like I see about them on Facebook. I'm shocked we've been able to organize this way.
Well, and shout out to all the Trump groups too that carry this program because they do, you know, they do carry this show and have been supportive of this show and these groups didn't just form in the past year. These groups have now been going strong for 2-3 years, almost the entirety of this administration.
Well, Trump's been campaigning since he got elected.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been a good 4 years of seeing what he can do. I mean, I'm very, very hopeful for tomorrow.
All right, so let's get back on topic. Anibal, what do you got numbers wise?
So the national polls are still showing, and again, we all understand that national polls mean nothing because at the end of the day, it is the Electoral College that matters.
Yes.
So at the moment, you see a lot of pushback in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, and in Missouri. Not Missouri. What was the third? Wisconsin. That you're seeing the bulk of polls going back and forth. It's now tightened to a few points, so they're all within the margin of error. Something that I like to do is actually look at non-U.S. polls, news outlets. So when they do their polling, the BBC, India One, and then Sky News in Australia, and a lot of those.
What are they saying?
A lot of those are
saying
they're saying that they see a repeat of 2016. That they're expecting Florida, Arizona, and Pennsylvania to go for Trump. And these are pretty decent margins. And then the one that everyone's been talking about, which was only 2 polls predicted last cycle's win with Trump. And that was Trafalgar. I think that's what we're trying to say.
Trafalgar.
And they're saying that for that poll, Michigan, 48-45, Trump beating Biden. Ohio, 49-44. Trump beating Biden, and then they have another poll that I cannot see at the moment that also shows that Trump is winning in Pennsylvania. So
It blows
those
my mind to see how close this can be when
Yeah.
you see the enthusiasm levels are here and here.
That's what I'm worried about. That's the part that concerns me. Like, are we too close to it? Are we too invested in it? And again, is this a sleeping giant on the Biden side where these people are just as fired up or just as passionate to get rid of Trump? They're just not out there showing it and waving the flag and being out there in the community the way the Trump supporters have.
I've been, because I'm kind of like you, Johnny, but I almost don't trust myself because I feel like I'm too close and too into the weeds with it. So I ask neighbors, and I'm like, hey, like, are you into politics, whatever? And when they say like, no, I'm a vote, but I'm not like really into it, I'm like, great. What do you think's going to happen? And I'm having neighbors. I know this isn't the right term to use really in most elections, but they're saying, oh, Trump's going to win in a landslide. I'm like, landslide? I mean,
I don't think it's gonna be a
I don't like
Yeah.
I don't like saying that, but I guess the point is that people that are just making general observations as they're driving around and going on about their life,
You would think.
that are not super political, they're saying, "Oh yeah, Trump," and I'm like, "All right." I mean, that's
I'm very worried about it. I think I'm very skeptical on that because I think that even though we don't see a lot of outright Biden support, I think it's the never Trumpers. I think it's the Camillas because, frankly,
Right.
let's be honest, this is not a vote for Biden. Like,
Right.
whatever. It's a non-Trump. It's a vote for Camilla. It's just give me anything but what.
So
Kamala.
one of my
I was like, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, who's
So
Camilla?
one of my neighbors literally just
Kamala.
texted me and was like,
Princess
"Hey,
of
Wales.
I-
So one of my neighbors is watching. and-
Sorry,
and-
Jody. It was
and-
just
and-
I was literally head scratching over here.
Kamala. I mean,
No one cares anyway.
Kamala. I haven't even taken the time to learn her name because I still
don't-
think Trump's going to win,
you
just
can't-
not by a
you
landslide.
Are you a
can't
racist?
You can't mispronounce her name.
I am tan
Did-
as well.
Did y'all see where she was?
You may be
like-
darker than she is, actually.
you are.
I
You
am.
are. Did you see where Kamala was like in I forget what state she was in, Ohio or somewhere, and she literally said like, "Hey everybody, it's Kamala. I'll see you later." She herself, yes, it's on video. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, although I'm not knocking her because they travel around, so it's
They're
smart.
tired.
It's smart for her to do, but she asks before they hand her the mic. She's on a hot mic,
Yeah.
and before she grabs the mic to like talk to a bunch of supporters, she asks one of the staffers, "Are we in Cleveland?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're in Cleveland." She's like, "Hey, Cleveland," and that's the thing. Like, I'm not knocking her because if she just barnstormed 3 other cities, I mean, you got to, it's smart
They're
for
tired.
it's smart for her to make sure that she doesn't make that dumb political
Or
move
actually
and
give a damn
yeah,
about where you're
yeah,
going to.
and say hi to the wrong city. But then she's like, "Okay, well, it's Kamala, and I'll see you later." And I'm just like,
How do
"Okay,
you
so
get your how do you get
if
your
you're
name
not
wrong?
saying your own name correctly, like what's
Yeah.
going on here?"
Well, hey, let's go ahead. I want to pull up 538 because he does have a nice kind of outlay here, a kind of nice little bullet point list about how Trump can still win, right? So again, these are the guys that up until 2016, like these were the standard bearer of politics and polling. So they say, as in 2016, Trump could potentially benefit from the Electoral College. Projected margins in the tipping point states are considerably tighter than the margins in the national popular vote. Again, it's back to that Electoral College strategy that got him the win in 2016.
But that is the only way you win.
That is the only
No,
strategy.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
it
hate
is,
that
but
concept.
but
That
but
is the
again,
only strategy.
Democrats have traditionally campaigned kind of in a more national, broad, popular vote way.
No, it's just because they want an excuse when they lose the
Yeah.
Isn't that where Trump brought in Paul Manafort back in 2016? Wasn't he part of that? Wasn't he
He
part of that?
also got fired though.
No, I know he got all his issues, but wasn't he brought in as some kind of like Electoral College consultant type, making sure that there weren't issues
Probably.
with delegates?
This is one thing I will say from the friends of mine that are working in the campaign. They and again, unless you've been down this road, you truly don't know how true this is or how rare this is. They said for the first time, and this is somebody who has spent their entire career working in politics. They said they have never worked for a campaign where anything they needed was given to them. They literally have a blank check. What do you need? Do you have what you need? Do you have everything? You know, it's anything and everything they need to do to win. And this campaign is stopping at nothing to win. So the mindset's there.
You look at the Democrat numbers. And
I'm sorry, you said Biden. You said that's the Biden campaign.
No. This is the Trump campaign.
The Biden campaign and Democrat campaigns have traditionally been funded by between 25 and 33% more than Republican campaigns. And for you to say that they're getting anything they want, and for the Biden campaign to be funded 25, 30% more is crazy that we're still having a shot at this.
Yeah, and it all goes down to how are they spending that money? And again, Biden's been spending a lot on digital because they didn't have a ground game. They've been spending a lot on a lot of these text messaging and things.
Yeah,
a lot of TV ads.
They're wasting on Republicans.
Yeah, they are.
So, I mean, to answer your original question, Johnny, you were asking what does it indicate in our political process that you can have no ground game, no traditional winning tactics for a campaign, and still win an election if that's what happens. I think it shows that you can have 3 or 4 networks that run negative stories about your opponent 95% of the time and positive stories about you 95% of the time, and that's how you can win an election. That's very unhealthy to see that as a potential for where our campaigns will go.
Well, you add the factor of the media already being in his favor, and then you add the censorship that's taken place through social media, and this is all platforms where they have literally censored even people within the administration. Again, it makes the job a heck of a lot easier.
If we lose this campaign, I foresee the RNC putting money, or having RNC donors putting money into media companies and putting money into social media companies to get that ground back, to be able to compete with the censorship and to compete with having some sort of news that is objective coverage.
We see that happening now. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily the Republicans, but I mean, there's a lot of new news outlets coming out if you're looking for it that isn't the Twitter, isn't the Instagram, isn't the Facebook. It doesn't have the same censorship or just groups and chats and things like
that. The focus will be placed there, though, as opposed to it being some ancillary kind of like
I don't know if you can get another of the big giants, though. I mean, think about it's been 10 years for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get where they're at now, right? It's like, you know how long it would take? It would not be the next election before we get something else that's a giant like that. It's going to take us 3 cycles before we could even get to that point to invest in it.
And that's more focusing on local and state politics and almost foregoing national politics when it comes to the conservative movement. And that's why I agree with you. I'm very scared about this election, which is why everyone should be, if you're a conservative, you should vote. If you're a Democrat, vote on Thursday. And so I really think
because they'll count it.
In Pennsylvania, they'll count it. So what's happening now, I really think that people need to understand that if the Democrats do take over when it comes to November 4th, that you'll see a monumental shift when it comes to how people campaign now. Because now you don't do retail politics. What the Trump administration has done is retail politics 101. When they go into their people, when they go into their communities, when you go into your neighborhoods, that is retail politics when you knock on doors. If the Democrats win, there will never be any more retail politics because now they see that they can just influence elections based on social media, telephone, and all the other media platforms. And you don't want that. I want someone to be able to talk to me and negotiate and figure out why I want to vote for this person or not.
I think the good thing is, though, is you do need a mixture, right? So you're right. You need a ground game. You need to be out there. You need to be knocking on doors. But at the same time, we do know that social media reaches more people than you can possibly do knocking on doors.
But it's never been able to quantify to votes.
It's not the same.
And people that have run campaigns know this to be true, but yet they still are willing to take large amounts of money on campaign contributions and candidates because they think they can convince this is the election that will sway the media outreach will equal votes, and it's never been that so far.
Or have they just not been able to track it? It doesn't mean that it isn't it. It just means that you don't have the tracking
just because someone throws
it.
more money into a media campaign, social media campaign, does not qualify into votes.
Yeah, look, and Jodie, I used to feel...
I don't know if the data analytics are there on that to make me feel comfortable with that.
But there is a point of diminishing return. If you're in a race where typically the whole entire race is $500,000 and you've spent $500,000 and you spend another $100,000, the difference isn't really. It's not there.
Correct.
It's really
It's going
hard.
to irritate constituents by seeing your face too much.
I mean, you can
true.
you can hit people constantly with ads, but I mean,
Well, look, and Jodie, I mean, again, as someone who is a digital marketer, and have been for a long time, I came into politics thinking the same thing. I'm like, why are we wasting our time going door to door when we can just hit them all with digital ads and Facebook ads and videos and all this kind of stuff? And it wasn't until I worked at the ground level with a number of campaigns, and you go to those doors and you realize that these people will not vote for you unless you come to their door. That's when you realize the impact of that grassroots politics
No,
and
I
how
think the
that
door
still
knocking
matters.
is important,
So-
and I think it
Not
gets you
so-
more.
and
I'm just
certainly-
social media shouldn't be discounted.
so Jody, just as
I
a
think it should be
quick,
a tool.
just as a quick example, Jody, because you were kind of part of this. Everybody, no matter how popular they think they are, everybody basically starts at zero, right? Like there's people in the neighborhood that know you and whatnot. So maybe you're at 1%, 2%, 3%,
church,
right?
things like that.
Yeah. Maybe you register at 3% name ID. In my campaign in 2018, appreciate your support. The door knocking alone in the very beginning, we were doing nothing other than door knocking because it's too early. A lot of people aren't paying attention. You're not doing mailers or social media, none of that. Just door knocking alone got us to 20% name ID.
Wow.
And that's all we were doing. So we know that the door knocking is the only thing that could do it. So you go from basically 0 to 20%. And then when we started the mail, which I know people hate direct mail, but when we started the mailers, in 2 weeks of direct mail, we went from 20% to 35%. Wow. And then after that, we continued the mail, went on TV, did some digital, and we ended up at 55%, 45% over Rhonda Storms and won. But just to give you an example of the difference it can really make. So
And Joe's making a great point because that's primary politics.
that's primary
And
politics.
then there's general election politics. Again,
Yeah.
there's just different math for different seasons of the political season.
And I agree with Jonny and I guess Jodie here. I like, the bigger the race, that's for a small race. The bigger the
Right, you're
race,
talking local,
you're thinking there's only so much time. You can only physically talk to so many people. You can
Right.
only do so much. So
Especially
surely,
in a countywide seat like Hillsborough.
yeah, surely
Right.
digital's got to be the way you reach people, right? But for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to have a huge impact.
It's all about attention span. People don't give a damn about half the things they see in social media if it's not a cat video where one of their friends doing something they care about.
But are people raising a lot of money from social media? I don't know the.
I don't
It
think
depends.
I think at the
Are they
national
raising a lot of
level-
money from it.
And now that's the difference. I think you get more money with a social network platform than
if you
do
can click a
votes.
button real quick and donate, I'm going to call it out. I had one of our candidate friends hit me up on Facebook Messenger and was like, hey, I could use some donations. And very quickly, I was like, oh, Apple Pay, here's some money.
Yeah.
Somebody just
It was so
messaged me.
easy.
Somebody just sent me a message that said, "You got my vote by knocking on my door."
Yeah.
I
That's
mean-
exactly how it
Yeah.
works.
Well, and you did it personally too. I mean, you had some of us out there knocking on doors for you, but you were very quick. If we'd be
knocked
like,
a lot
"Hey,
of
somebody
doors.
wants to talk to you," you came right over to
Yeah.
their door and came and
Yeah.
talked to them. Like
Phone number.
you were running around those neighborhoods.
I want to give
like
a shout out to
crazy.
Michael Owen, House District 59, who's running to win
Right.
it back.
Shout out to Michael Owen.
His number is on his stuff too. He's got he does the cool little it's on sticky notes, and you can put them on there, and it's got his name and his number. And I knocked some doors for him, and it was like, hey, give the guy a call. Of course, they don't believe you. They don't really believe it's your
it's the
number.
number.
I know I've gotten a few people call me, and I'm like, hello, this is Joe. And they're like, is this Joe Wicker? And I'm like, yeah, how can
Just
I?
testing.
Yeah, and they're like, you know what? Just because you answered, no, seriously, they're like, just because you're real and this is not a scam and you answered, you got my vote. That's all I need to know. And I was like, all right. I mean,
Cool.
but because
Tell a neighbor.
because politics is so impersonal.
You should be charging for this
It
information.
is so impersonal, and if you can make a personal connection, you can make a difference. Which, do you get back to the national election? Trump's knocking on what? Isn't it something crazy like 1 million doors?
Yeah,
is it
it's
a
ridiculous.
Day?
Yeah,
It was like
a day,
15
a million?
million last month.
It's 1 million a day almost. That's insane.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I just did
That's
100
an
today.
insane
Unbelievable.
number of doors.
And people
You
forget
knocked
also.
on 150 doors today?
Yes.
Well,
and
look, let me-
I left work at 1:30 and spent until 6:15 knocking on doors before I came here today.
Oh yeah, the young Republicans were
job,
out
man.
in that district as
I
well.
applaud you on that.
And we hit thousands
Yeah.
of doors if you break it out. But
Knock those doors, baby.
What Joe is saying, and even with Chris, is that it's not even a first time running. It's how many times have you run.
Yeah.
And that also can be a slice on either side. Either people are annoyed because you keep on running, Or they saw that you ran the first time, you did a great job, and then the second time you're running, they're going to vote for you even more. And that's a tricky conversation.
Well, and I'll tell you, Joe, and I think you might agree with me on the numbers here, but going from a volunteer, when you get a volunteer, you're going to hope that maybe they'll come hitting somewhere close to 75 to 100 doors on an afternoon, right? Yeah. When I was working for the party, we got deployed to Louisiana to help Bill Cassidy beat Mary Landrieu, right? Landrieu, huge name there. It was a huge mountain to overcome. Individually, we were assigned 200 to 200 plus doors a day, and there was this was just in New Orleans because there was a second team up in the Capitol. Just in New Orleans, there was over 100 of us. And so, so you do the math on that, and then see the outcome. Bill Cassidy beating Mary Landrieu.
What's that? 20,000 doors a day. That's public school math.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
20,000 a day. That's a lot of doors, even for a governor's race.
And New Orleans and Louisiana is one of those states where you have to go to their door and ask for that vote.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see tomorrow how different U.S. politics will change on November 4th.
Buddy of mine,
I don't think we're finding out tomorrow.
It may change.
I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't change. I hope you have to earn the votes of the American people.
Oh, I hope so.
And that's what I want to go. I will say this: a race that I'm really looking forward to watch and see the results is House District Florida House District 68 with Matt Tito. And the reason why I'm wanting to watch that campaign is because he hasn't been hitting Republican voters. He's been hitting soft Democrat voters.
What's the breakdown of the district?
I believe it's more Democrats than it is. Actually, no. I think
Where is that at?
That House District 68. Let me pull it up right now.
Oh, okay. Pinellas.
So he's hitting the soft Democrat because he knows he's going to get the Republican vote either way.
Because he's
there
already
people that they're going to vote red down the ballot.
And then if he wins, you hit the Tito's, you know, and then
so it is the east
Sorry,
side.
terrible joke.
It's the east side of the southern part of Pinellas County. So
that
downtown,
could be some branding, you know.
Downtown.
Yeah, right.
So what's the thing?
I would have had some fun with that.
If he's able to flip that seat to a Republican seat, I think that says a lot about the entire district.
All right, let me go ahead and before we kind of go further into predictions, thank you everybody for watching the Yard Sign. Please like, comment, share. We've been getting lots of comments. Love all the comments. Thank you to everybody watching. Hello to Karen Jarosh. Shout out to Karen, who is running for soil and water conservation, along with Mark Proctor. Please vote for Karen and Mark on your ballot anywhere in Hillsborough County.
Oh my!
I know
God.
that was talking about Facebook censorship. She was one of those Republican candidates.
They throttled her back.
Where they were messing with her ad account. Yeah, absolutely. So she's kind of seen that firsthand. Nick, real active today. Matthew James, thank you. They've almost let Hector kind of take a back seat today. But again, if you're in Hillsborough County, again, shout out to Karen and Mark Proctor, who are running for Soil and Water Board. And aside from that, they're amazing people. They've dedicated so much of their personal time, and I'm talking years of their lives, to this community. So,
which you do not get paid for, soil and water. So just
no, it's an unpaid position.
You don't get paid for
it. And if anybody deserves to get it, it's certainly those two.
Is there still a mosquito control board?
Oh, I
not
think
in
somewhere.
Hillsborough. I don't think
There's
so.
I've heard
In
something about
Pasco,
it.
yeah.
Pasco and the other one up from that, Hernando.
Is that an elected position?
I think it is.
Not in Hillsborough.
Can
I
you
don't think
imagine
so.
campaigning for that? Mosquito
People,
control.
hey,
Get out of here. It was bad this year. You suck.
well, remember dog catcher when people used to run for
what
dog
do you
catcher in the
do?
past?
What
my
do you do?
gosh.
Do you hand out like little mosquito? Do you hand out citronella candles like with your?
That would be a great
with your
idea.
name
A lot
on
of
it?
mosquitoes in my
All
yard.
right, so
Talking about those two, I would
Hold
love
on.
to have Proctor onto this on this show one time.
we do need to get him on to talk about the judicial
done-
races.
Yeah, Proctor's got
Great
years
job.
in the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a lot of years in the game.
We'll do that. I'd like to do a whole series of consultants. I think that'd be super, super interesting. But just want to also give a huge thanks to Bake More Pies, in case you guys were wondering what that poster there to Anibal's left is. They provide this amazing studio for us. If you are in need of digital marketing and advertising, check out bakemorepies.com. Thank you to Cords and the team for the beautiful accommodations. All right, election predictions.
Wait, I have two more polls.
No.
Oh,
Yes.
No, we're done.
Well, look,
No.
hold on that last
You're gonna
topic.
like- you're gonna
hold
like
on,
these
hold on.
polls.
Give me 1 second. Let me make this point. Without Pennsylvania, and this is from 538.com, without Pennsylvania, Biden does have some paths to victory, but there's no one alternative state that he can feel especially secure about. That's how big Pennsylvania is, and
Well,
I
he
think
brought
Trump
Lady
can win.
Gaga there today, so I'm not sure.
She did
if
great
he's
for Hillary
making-
last time.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's
Pandered to-
making the best decisions because she's
She pissed off the
anti-fracking.
military community. I can tell you
definitely-
that.
She pandered to middle America so well. She took a half-drank
Trump-
beer and wasted it
Trump's
in the ground.
going to win. Trump's going to win Pennsylvania, and then they're going to spend 6 days afterwards taking it from him.
So I will say this: the main
Trying to.
poll,
Ballot stuff.
the real poll in Pennsylvania is the cookie poll, which
my
has
God.
kicked off about 2 months ago. And at this moment, Trump leads Biden by almost 22,000 sold cookies.
Wow.
So Biden has 5,000 cookies sold, where Trump has 28,000.
Who's selling
Alright.
these cookies?
But
So it's a bakery.
Yeah,
it's a
but
bakery.
what
in,
percentage?
northern
What
in-
percentage of the cookies sold that were Trump? Were they Trump haters who bought the cookie to take them home and stamp on
No one.
Not 20,000.
No,
Not
no one's
them? Because
doing
they
that.
because
If they're
because
stepping on flags, they're stepping on
One-
Trump cookies.
one of the speaking of bakery goods, the
There's one
thing,
here in
the
Tampa.
thing
Oh, I see.
Michael in our comments says
Well,
the
there's-
cookies don't lie.
Yeah, there's the
don't lie.
Alessi's. There's the Alessi's. But one of the things that I thought was hilarious was when Rick Scott did his deal where he would go to work for a day in a business, and he went to a donut shop, and they made pink donuts because at that time the Democrats were doing a pink slip Rick.
Oh, right.
campaign.
Yeah, right.
And they were all showing up, and like he was at the counter, like, "Can I ring you up?" Whatever. And they were all buying pink donuts.
Oh, no.
And it was a kind of like a whole thing about trying to fire Rick Scott, and Rick Scott being the former donut.
Oh, that's right. He had a
shop owner
donut
that
shop
he
on
was,
right.
and being the businessman that he is, he looks back, and I guess the media's there, and they're like, "How's it going?" He's like, "Should have made more pink donuts." So he was all about selling the donuts. He didn't care if they were for him, not for him. If you were going to throw it in the trash afterwards, hey, I'm here
All
to
right.
sell
So
donuts.
the
Not out of
donuts here-
hold on, not out of the scope of 2020 scenarios because of course it's been such a horrendous year. There is about a 4% chance that we'll have either a recount or an electoral college tie, which they're saying is only about 0.5%. And so,
Lord, little baby Jesus,
Yeah.
little 8 pound, 6 ounce baby
What
Jesus,
happens
please don't
if
allow
there
us to have a
is
tie.
an electoral
Don't allow,
college
don't,
No,
don't,
no,
don't
we're
have
not
an
going
electoral
that
college
much.
Well,
tie. No.
somebody just tell me who does it? Does it go to Pelosi?
Pelosi becomes president if we haven't figured it out by February. She becomes president.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Okay. The
I
other
don't think
poll.
so.
Now I'm quite nervous.
Don't say that because that's what everyone says about Trump. So another poll that people don't really look at, but
Oh,
has
boy.
predicted the president.
But apparently
since
you did.
1984 is the mask sales at Halloween stores have predicted the
meth
president's-
sales? What?
Mask.
Oh, sorry.
Not meth. Mask
Florida.
sales. I know this is Florida, but this is
Depends on
not.
what
But this ain't
economy you're
poke. So political mass between the two, Biden and Trump. So Trump 66% versus Biden's 34%.
But everyone already had Walter masks before that, so
Yeah.
the sales were a little bit
Yeah.
lower because of that one particular
They
factor.
predicted the mass sales have predicted every president since '84.
But who?
All right.
What Democrat wants to dress as Joe Biden for
What
Halloween?
Democrat
Really?
wanted to dress as Obama?
Well, I can see
Well,
why
you-
they would want to do
He was
See?
way
I just wanted
cooler.
to-
See?
He was
Or
way
Clinton?
cooler.
You can't dress as Obama because you would just be ridiculed for the blackface.
No,
Like,
we weren't blackface at that time. We're blackface. We're not allowed to do blackface
It was okay
now.
then. It was okay
blackface was
then.
a thing during Obama.
No, when did that guy from Late Night did his blackface?
Jimmy
Kimmel?
Fallon
No,
or Jimmy Kimmel.
Kimmel. Kimmel did it during the Obama administration.
Well, he was doing like Shaquille O'Neal, and
Yeah,
he
It was
doing
okay then,
like,
because and he's a Democrat too.
yeah,
Also,
as
okay.
a Democrat,
So
you're
that's
allowed to do
fine.
blackface. Yeah, or the Prime Minister of Canada.
all right, guys, let's go ahead and bring this one home. We'll go around the table. Let's go. Just start off with the big show. Election predictions for President of the United States. Let's go with VerKuilen.
Trump.
Joe.
I have put in way too much work and pissed away so much time on my weekends knocking doors. I'm probably at like 800, 900 doors now for Trump to lose. So
And
if he
making
loses, I'm going to be
videos
let
and
down.
you've done a lot of
couldn't
work.
get to 1,000
You've done
doors?
So much work.
No, maybe tomorrow I will. I might tomorrow.
I
Yeah,
think-
Wicker.
I'm gonna go with Trump. I do think that he wins Pennsylvania on election night and loses it 6 days later when they continue the ballot.
We didn't even talk about that, but yeah.
And when the Democrats figure out how many ballots they need to show up. And
Oh, we found these.
in the back of a old Tempo. I do think that House District 59, I think we're going to win it back because I think the Trump vote's going to show up.
Oh, we weren't getting there yet.
And I think we can win
Jumping
it
the
back.
gun. All
We're
right.
gonna get there. We're gonna get
Yeah, we'll get there. Jody.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Sorry.
I think it's going to be Trump, but I don't think it's going to be a landslide. I think it's going to be really close, and I don't think we're going to know until Thursday or Friday, to be honest with you.
I don't think
Wow.
we're on for Friday either.
Well, we didn't know until what, 2 a.m.?
2 a.m.
No,
Late.
we knew
2 a.m.
at 8:30
But it
Well,
didn't
we
that
knew.
day,
call.
and
But they
CNN
wouldn't call
didn't
it.
want to call
Wouldn't call
it until like 11, and then the Clinton
the only defense of the media that I have to give though is that remember what they did to themselves and kind of the country in 2000 with Bush. No,
The Chads?
Well, in 2000 with Bush.
Yeah.
They jumped the gun.
Called it too early.
They jumped the gun. And so they all learned from that, and then they
they've
got
never
real
done
gun
it.
shy.
Yeah,
So they
they've
got
never
real.
done it.
Yeah. Since then they've been real
They've been
gun shy.
stopped.
Which I'm okay with, but
Yeah.
I remember last time 4 years ago at around 7:30, 8 o'clock, we were all looking for places to go drinking and have a party because we realized we were gonna win it. And it was the craziest feeling. And even though it was 11 o'clock, you saw people leaving Hillary Clinton's party because you knew there was bad. Also, Hillary not
the
kissing-
New York, watching the New York party fall apart was amazing.
Also, another
Amazing.
really.
But look, I'll be honest, and Anibal's heard me say this too many times. I honestly, until 2 o'clock in the morning, I still thought there was a chance he was going to lose.
I couldn't believe I woke up in a Trump America, guys. I went to bed.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
No.
I went to bed thinking it was Hillary. I woke up and was like, you have got to be kidding.
Not to live in the past too much. That was an amazing morning. I woke up and did a Facebook live stream. I did a shot of bourbon. Then I grabbed my rifle and I went in the deer and killed an 8-point deer that morning. It was glorious.
It was like being in a
The
whole
most
new world.
American way
Yeah.
to
That was
celebrate
that
an
was
election.
very America, right?
I think, Joe, were we out?
That was full on America.
We were out in Ybor City celebrating.
Were we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were at Duamici's.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We were at
That was a
Duamici's
great-
Pizzeria, which again, hey, if you're going to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching
the
election
best
results,
pizza
nothing
to
better
have.
than having some amazing.
I mean, they had
pizzas.
champagne on hand, so I'm okay with any
did.
pizzeria that has champagne.
And
they're
shout out to
wonderful
Holly.
supporters.
Shout out to our good friend, longtime friend Holly, who's saying that the Pennsylvania Attorney General is already trying to call the race in Pennsylvania. So we got drama going. Oh, I know. He's a total jerk.
Projection, yeah.
So
projection.
was it, who's the vice governor? I guess that's what, how's that called?
Lieutenant Governor?
Lieutenant governor is really upset that not enough attention is being put on the Biden campaign to do more in Pennsylvania. That's how annoyed they are. That they really feel it might flip.
Oh, they are.
He was on
They are.
CNN yesterday, really upset, saying that he doesn't think they're going to win, but he doesn't think Biden's going to lose. But he's very concerned that the numbers are not going the way he.
The
thought they were
Biden
gonna go.
campaign literally pulled the emergency lever this weekend because apparently they were hitting thousands of doors this weekend into states like Pennsylvania because they know they are in trouble.
Well, they had to come back from him saying what he's going to do to the energy sector. Like, I mean, there was just no coming back from that. And
I saw an ad.
like,
I saw a
Pennsylvania.
TV ad, and of course I'm in Florida. I saw a TV ad that was literally, you would have thought Joe Biden was a Republican. It was talking about, no, seriously, it was talking about his plan to cut taxes for everybody. And I was like, what? And I'm telling you, if you didn't know anything about who that was, you would have thought that was a Republican.
Oh.
You
I'm not
never
surprised.
did your prediction. We didn't finish this.
Okay,
We got sidetracked.
my prediction is plus 300 electoral votes.
Are there
Ooh,
even
that's
Oh,
300?
plus 300.
That's
Oh,
really
so you're-
bold.
So you're saying like kind of like landslide.
I'm not going to use the word.
But that's a
I'm
landslide
not
in
going to use
modern
the
day
word
politics.
landslide.
I don't know.
will say
I'm not that confident.
I will say it's one way or the other. It's either 300 for Joe Biden or
270
300
is enough.
for the president. And I
I'll go ahead and just jump in here that I think Trump pulls it off, but I think we're in for a legal fight, and we're probably going to be into this a week or two.
Well, and the problem is if we do go into that legal fight and Trump does pull it off, then for the next 4 years, we just have to listen to the fact that it was all rigged and there was this legal battle, and then like we never.
Well,
get
any
to this
hardcore liberal will
cohesive
tell you that
place.
George W. Bush still stole the 2000 election.
Yeah, which is absurd, of course, we know.
Yeah.
They counted the ballots like 3, 4, 5 times, and Bush kept getting more votes. And
We
finally
have
the Supreme
just
Court
as
was like,
many
"Enough's
lawyers.
enough."
We have just as many lawyers that know
Yeah,
exactly
but you know
what
what?
to
The-
do.
the left
and
is
I,
gonna riot.
and
They're
I
gonna
understand.
riot.
Yeah, they are.
They're going to riot anyway.
No matter what, they're
They're
going to
gonna
riot.
I
They're
have
gonna
dinner
riot.
plans downtown on Wednesday, so if they could just wait to riot until
Yeah.
Thursday,
Yeah.
that would be
Cancel that.
really, really
Well,
great.
our
for me.
businesses,
we have
are,
dinner.
no,
God.
our businesses already boarding up.
In New York.
They
Yeah.
are.
In
New
Memphis.
York, no,
DC
New
is-
York, Los
DC is
Angeles,
almost a ghost town
DC,
already.
Minnesota, it's
Yeah.
all the major
We picked
cities
up
are
friends
boarding.
that have evacuated from DC
Yeah.
Right.
earlier today because they wanted to get out of
This
the
is
city ahead of
crazy,
time.
man.
It's going to go insane when
No,
it
but I
ends.
do agree. I have an appointment on Thursday that I need to
So-
make sure we have.
So you want them to wait till Friday to riot?
If they're going
I'm
to
on board
riot,
with Friday.
Go to St. Pete to riot. You do it every single time.
Yeah.
Don't go Soho.
Don't do it in downtown.
I can't do. No, I have dinner. Well, we have dinner on Friday at Burns. I can't.
I'm going to be at Charlie's on Wednesday.
Oh,
my
God.
we should
VerKuilen,
find
what
a
were you
place
gonna
to have
say?
drinks.
I bet you there won't be a
There's
riot at
too much
Fred's.
bouginess on that side of the table.
I bet you there won't be a riot at Fred's Kitchen.
There definitely will not be.
There'll be a riot for that fried chicken.
There'll be
That's
some
right.
shotgun racks on some of the cars outside. That's for sure.
I have some words to say about the escalation of political force.
Oh
So,
boy!
Oh, okay.
Wow!
I have some words to say. This is
An
for-
hour and 24 minutes into the show. Okay.
Are we in school? Are we in
This
class?
this is for Democrats mostly, but Republicans listen up as well. Okay,
47-point word
if
is
you
done.
have not participated in the political process to the utmost extent of your abilities, you don't get to complain. You don't get to riot. You don't get to be a jerk to your friends. Okay, so I'm going to lay out a couple of things here that are involved in the political process. There's about 6-7 tiers, and I'll start with tier 0 because
Wait.
because tier 0
Can we make
is,
this a
is-
whole
is
nother
what it is,
show?
nothing. Okay, so things that are involved in tier
my
0:
God.
leave a reaction on social media, make a comment on Facebook, make a post on social media. That's tier 0.
That's 90% of the Democrat Party right now.
We gotta let
I'm
him get
getting
through this.
somewhere.
Yeah,
okay?
we can't
gotta
interrupt
let
him.
him
He's
get
got
through
to
this.
I was trying to wrap up
Tier,
the show.
tier 1: write a letter to an elected official, attend a governing body meeting, donate to a political campaign, support companies that share your values. Tier 2: join a political organization, donate a sum to a political campaign. Tier 3: volunteer on a campaign, educate the public on specifics of your issues or your values. 4: run for office, lobby a politician, work on a political campaign as an employee, not as a volunteer, start an organization to educate the public. Then we get into, this is where the reasonable
What
majority.
step are we on right now?
6.
Oh my gosh!
We're on
This
step
is where the
6
reasonable
out of
majority
7.
of political activity occurs, okay?
Ready?
When the government begins to violate your human rights, this is an extraordinarily rare circumstance. This is talking about confiscating property, taxation without representation, squandering taxes as you paid, inflicting unprovoked or unreasonable violence on citizens. This is when protesting comes into place, okay? Rioting is not protesting. Don't confuse the two. This has been protesting comes into place, okay? Nowhere in America have we reached this step where we have unprovoked and unreasonable violence against citizens that has been, for no reason, okay? In the most drastic and final step in political influence, that's actual violence. There's been no reason in American discourse so far, except for the Civil War, where this has been a reasonable outlet since we've been founded.
All right, dude, you gotta warn me when you got something like this lined up,
Yeah, we
man.
would've
It's
talked
Well,
like-
y'all were
this
talking about
earlier.
nonsense about going to Burns and shit.
Whoa. Do you know how long it took me to get that
I
dinner
know, but I
reservation?
mean, again,
I had
I
to
would have
pull
loved to.
strings.
I'm very excited to support our local
Either
economy.
way, the entire point is if you haven't done any of those things and you decide you're going to go out to Tampa or downtown St. Pete and riot or protest because you didn't get your way, there's about 10 steps you missed, okay? So take a back seat, do your work, next election you'll get your way. Until then, sit down.
All right,
I have
well,
to-
I was
Fully
not
agree with you.
expecting.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
I was not expecting Chris to hijack the show, but thanks, buddy.
That was good. It was a good one. It was a good solo.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. This has been another edition of The Yard Sign. Don't forget to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple platforms. Also, coming soon, iHeart, Audible, and Amazon as well. So we're going to be everywhere you want to be in terms of your podcast content. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to everybody who's been amazing in our comments section. And again, feel free to keep those comments coming. Send us messages on topics or people people we should have on the show. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of those crazy people over there, VerKuilen, Joe Wicker, Jodie, Lopes, and Anibal Cabrera.
Are we done?
We are done. I'm
Hey.
Jonny Torres. Thank you so much for watching.
This is a super show.
So long, everybody.